What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Planet 76 Podcast. Before the episode starts, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast. Go follow us on Instagram as well. Thank you, and enjoy the episode.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Planet 76. I am one of your hosts, Troy. I got Michael here with me. Michael, big game tonight, playoff rematch, Atlanta Hawks. How are we feeling? You're all smiles over there. Must have been good game.
It was a really good game, really nice. Not really convincing win, but just a really solid win overall. Sixers won by, I believe the score was 122-94, something like that. And really, after the first quarter, it was the Sixers' game to win. I mean, I'm pretty sure they led by double figures most of the time. And even if it wasn't double figures, it was the Sixers were leading for most of the game, like I said, after the first quarter. And just really great, really well-rounded win from all the guys. The bench played well. Embiid didn't have to put up, 30 and 20 to win. It was nice. It was really refreshing, honestly, is the word I would use.
Yeah, no, it must have felt good to watch that one. I did not catch the action tonight, unfortunately, but glad they won. Yeah, 122-94. Some notables, like you mentioned. Yeah, Joel only 19. Kind of nice when you can win a game by that much.
Right.
And Joel only has to get 19 against a quality team like the Hawks. Tobias putting up numbers again, 22 points. The rest of the starters, not sure what Danny finished with. I don't think he was in double digits yet, but he'll get there eventually. Maxey and Seth, 15 apiece. Maxey a couple tray balls, which is nice to see. Matisse Thybulle, 11.
Dude.
What was with that?
Watching Thybulle tonight was just insane. Like, you know how good he is defensively, but watching him defensively is a totally different thing. Like, it's kind of hard to describe just how good he is on defense.
Right.
I was thinking to myself, how is he this good on defense? When I was watching the things he was doing, chase down blocks, just picking guys'
Was he on Trae Young?
pockets all night.
A little bit. Trae only had
Trae
was 5 for 16, so someone did something good on him.
Maxey was guarding him for a little while. Danny Green was guarding him for a little while. Matisse Thybulle played mostly on DeAndre Hunter tonight when he was playing, which was kind of strange. I would have liked to see him on Trae, but it doesn't matter anyway. Matisse still played very well.
Interesting. Yeah, I would have thought he would have been on him a little bit more, but I feel like I would have loved to see that. Maxey and Trae Young going at it a little bit.
Yeah.
How was that? Just one-on-one?
Well, Trae Young got him a few times. I think he ended up with 2 fouls on Trae Young, but it is what it is. And Trae Young was doing that stupid foul thing that he does. And somehow he got away with it twice against Maxey. Well, actually, Maxey fouled him on a 3. Actually, I don't think it was a 3, but Maxey fouled him on the perimeter, and it was kind of questionable, but everybody was saying it was a foul. So I kind of just accepted it. But the first one, Trae Young did that little, scoot thing that he does.
Okay.
And then Maxey got called for a foul.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. I'm just going to ask you a couple questions. So on behalf of Planet 76 listeners and myself who didn't get to watch the game, obviously I was checking the score and stuff where I was, and I noticed, they were up 22 when I looked at some point in the third quarter, and I was like, oh my gosh, who's going off? And it was just very balanced, and I was like, okay. Yeah. Then I look at the bench, and the most points, at least at the time, we had a couple guys in double figures with Matisse and Shake Milton to finish the game, but midway through the third quarter again, when they had a 22-point lead, the highest scorer off the bench had 5 or something. And so I was a little, not that they weren't putting up points, I mean, goodness, they scored 122, but how did the Sixers win this game? Was it truly this balanced kind of thing? Because I was a little surprised myself just to see not as much off the bench at the time being, and for them to have such a big lead. So how did they do it?
Well, honestly, their defense was really good tonight, especially on Trae Young. I think he only ended with 17 points, something like that. But their team defense was really good. 13, even better. Their team defense was awesome. Obviously, you want to highlight guys like Thybulle played really well. Niang individually was really good on defense tonight. Embiid was good, obviously, but they just played really well. I mean, Maxey had a nice night defensively. Tobias had a nice night defensively. the team overall just played really well, and they really limited what Atlanta did on offense, especially on those lobs that Trae Young likes to throw to guys like Collins and Capella. I didn't really see a lot of that tonight, which definitely contributed to the win, because when Trae Young can just get into the lane and do whatever he wants, that's not good news for the Sixers. And he wasn't really doing that tonight, whether by choice or not, but I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that the Sixers played really good defense. Obviously, Thybulle had 4 steals and 3 blocks by himself as a guard. As a guard.
He had a heck of a game.
It was really awesome.
11 points too. Wow.
It was awesome, yeah.
So he had a good game. Very cool to see from Matisse. You mentioned Tobias Harris, good defensively tonight. I think, a small sample size, but in 6 total games this year, I think he's looked pretty good on the defensive end. Against Julius Randle against the Knicks, I thought he held his own, very much so. I don't know what Randle finished with, but I know it was below 50% from the field. I'm pretty sure of it, at least. And Tobias was on him, pretty much the whole time. So he's looked good. His scoring is there. Seth, I don't know what else we need to say about him.
Just what a baller! Just straight baller is what I would use to describe Seth Curry. Really.
Yep, the dude is good. What can you say?
Yeah.
And then your guy, Shake Milton, is back in action this week. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about seeing him, and how do you feel about just how he's looked in these couple games?
I'm really happy he's back. I'm happy he has a spot in the rotation once again. I was a little nervous that he wasn't going to get in the rotation just because of how things were shaking up to end the preseason. But I'm really glad he found his way back. I'm really glad he's back from injury, and he's looked pretty good.
Yeah.
He had a good game tonight. He had a couple threes. He made some nice plays as well. And then the other night against Detroit, I believe, was his first game back, and he played well in that game too. And I really hope he stays coming off the bench. I think he's much more well-suited for a bench role and keeping Tyrese Maxey in the starting lineup.
I was going to go there.
That spark off the bench,
Yep, I was going to go there.
Okay.
You took us there.
Okay.
So Shake Milton and Tyrese Maxey. There's been questions. I don't even know if it's been with Doc or just questions in the air about, who's starting. So you think that Maxey should stay in the starting lineup? I'm one that I think it doesn't matter, and you might lean that way a little bit too. Like ultimately, it doesn't matter who you go with, but I think as long as Doc is willing to play whoever is hot late out of those two, if Tyrese is the starter, but Shake's having an incredible game, let Shake run the last 3 minutes with the starters or whatever. You know what I mean? I think as long as Doc is willing to do that, I'm good with it. He's been quoted as saying that he wants Maxey out, or like he thinks Maxey's more comfortable off the bench or something like that.
Maxey looks comfortable as a starter from what I see. From what I'm seeing, he's shooting the ball well. He's tonight. Oh my gosh! One thing I want to say,
especially this week.
Yeah, and tonight, one thing I want to say is that there was a sequence in the fourth quarter, I think, where Tyrese got to the rim probably 4 times out of 6 Sixers possessions, and he scored on 3 of them. Then he had an and-1 on one of those 3. So he looked insanely comfortable with the ball in his hands, getting his own shot at the rim. He looked very good, and like you said, I think he had 15 tonight.
15, 2 threes, 5 and 9 total from the field.
Yeah. He was very good tonight, definitely.
Yeah, and it's maybe, here's a crazy thought, maybe Doc Rivers is having some of what I had last week, just in terms of his feelings toward Maxey is like, he's not the spark plug off the bench anymore, and that makes him look worse. It's not. It doesn't make him look worse, it just makes him look different.
Right.
And I don't think that, again, as long as his field goal percentage is there, as long as he's not forcing stupid shots, as long as he's doing what he's asked to do, and I think he has in 6 games, then I think he should stay in the lineup. And again, ultimately,
totally agree.
It doesn't matter. I think as long as Doc is willing to go with the hot hand between Maxey and Milton, when it's necessary, and plug and play, and they're both flexible. Clearly, I think as two NBA players, and so I think as long as Doc's willing to let them be flexible and let them see who, or kind of decide, okay, this guy's playing really well, I'm going to keep going with him, then I have no problem.
The ebb and flow of the game.
Right. Anything
Right.
else on tonight's game with the Atlanta Hawks? Again, sweet revenge, 122-94 Sixers win. And we can touch on the other two games of the week, too.
Nothing really else, just overall a really, really solid win. And like I said earlier, really refreshing to win a game with a big lead against a really good team. Just something you don't really get from the Sixers all the time. So when you get it, it's really nice. Really nice.
Absolutely. Taking care of business. Went 2-1 both. This is the second week of the season. 2-1 the first week, 2-1 the second week, and we'll work backwards. So game 5 of the season was against the Pistons. We won't spend a lot of time here because it is the Pistons. That's what you said actually off air. And so 110-102 Sixers win. There was, worth noting, at least a late push by the Pistons in that game.
Yeah.
Kind of made you feel a little nervous for a second. It almost like the Nets game, the home opener, where we just couldn't do anything the last 5-6 minutes of the game. And I'm not pushing the panic button or anything, but it's just, kind of interesting. The two home games to that date this year were kind of similar, but we came out with the win against the Pistons in that one.
Yeah, it did get a little sloppy. I'm not gonna lie. At times against the Pistons, they pushed. I think they cut the lead to 4 or 5 late.
Yeah.
And then the Sixers ended up winning by
8.
Was it 9?
Yep.
8. So not something you want to see because again, it is the Pistons. They are not a good team. They are not a very good team. You don't really want to be worried about the Pistons when you are playing them. You want to win convincingly. But again, a win is a win. It happens. Gritty wins. That's what you're going to get.
Right.
It's a long NBA season. And a lot of people were like, oh my God, we're going to lose.
I know. It started to okay, what are you doing?
It was interesting to say the least. But
For
again,
sure.
A win is a win. I'll take it.
Sixers Twitter would have been an ugly place if they would have dropped out.
Man,
I'll just say that.
It's so bad.
One last note on that one. We did see an interesting lineup featured. I don't even remember how long, but Shake Milton, Furkan Korkmaz, Matisse Thybulle, Tobias Harris, and Georges Niang running the 5. I don't know if we saw any of that tonight against Atlanta.
I don't think so.
That's a small lineup, one that I don't know if it's going to get a lot of action this year, but who knows? I don't even remember how they did, but I just remember that was a lineup featured for the 76ers. Shake Milton, Furkan Korkmaz, Matisse Thybulle, Tobias at the 4, and Georges Niang, the big man. So, anyway.
Yeah, I don't know how I don't know how comfortable I am with the Sixers running that lineup with any form of consistency because it's very undersized to say the least. Not a lot of defense. Very undersized.
Yeah, I mean, Doc with these 5-man bench lineups or 4 at the least.
These strange concoctions that he comes up with the lineups.
That's for sure. Embiid did get his first 30 piece in that one, 30 and 18 from the big fella. Maxey efficient from the field, 2 for 2 from 3, 16 points against the Pistons. And then going back from there, again, we're working backwards. Game 4 of the season against the New York Knicks at the Garden. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually in New York. Almost tried to get to that one. Had an appointment that evening, so I could not make it to the Garden. I'm happy I could not. So where do you want to go with the Knicks game?
I mean, not really much else to say besides not a fun game. I think they ended up losing by 10, was it? But trust me, it was not a 10-point game. The Sixers looked very sloppy throughout most of the game. And then, again, the Knicks are a good team. I would probably put the Knicks in the category with the Hawks right now at this point. Well, the Knicks might be a little better. The Knicks are better right now, I think. Just based off of record, production overall. But the Knicks are a very good team. We know this already. And I was kind of hoping for a more physical game from the Sixers. They kind of just looked to be honest. And the Knicks were just physical. They threw double teams at Embiid. They were being physical with him, and it worked for most of the game. I think he only ended with 12 points maybe on like 6 shots. He did not shoot the ball that much.
Yeah, he had 0 field goals at the half. He had 14 on 2 made shots.
14. Oh, yeah. So that's a huge reason why the Sixers lost. And overall, the Knicks were just being the way more physical team and just.
But you predicted that. I don't know if it was here or on Instagram or something. You said just based on not prediction, but just based on the fact that they are a physical team. Sixers don't deal with that well. I mean, you hit it on the head. You said this could be a tough one.
Yeah. So and it was, and hopefully the next time they play the Knicks, they come in with the fact that okay, last time they kind of whooped us. Let's be a little bit more physical. Let's try and assert ourselves late because the Sixers have the best player of the two teams. And yes, the Knicks will double team and be physical with Embiid. They have Mitchell Robinson, who's a really good defender. They can throw guys like Julius Randle at him, Taj Gibson, even Obi Toppin at times. And the Sixers need to adjust for next time and realize that they need to be more physical and they need to match the Knicks' physicality if they want to compete.
Right. Yeah, there was, you were not kidding. They were physical all over the place, especially on Embiid.
Yeah.
0 field goals for Embiid at half. Again, he only finished with 2. They got out physical. They looked lazy. They looked tired. I mean, if you lose a quarter, I mean, they only lost by, I forget, but if you lose a quarter 39-16 in the National Basketball Association, you're not going to win a whole lot of games, and that's what the Sixers did in the second quarter. Yikes. I mean, it was what was the score at half? We were down 20 at half, so we were up, we were up 3 at the end of the first, and then we're down 20. What a nightmare quarter. Sixers tried to make a little, not really a run, but they tried to get back in it, made some shots, I think late third, early fourth, and then just couldn't get over the hump. It was one of those frustrating games where, Sixers score a couple buckets in a row, and then the Knicks hit a 3, and just take all of the air out of the ball. And so it was just a frustrating one. Kemba Walker had a great game. He couldn't miss, among other guys for the Knicks. I mean, they've got some guys that can get some buckets. The Knicks are kind of a fun team to watch. I'm not gonna lie. They got some really good guards.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they got guys that are just good. Guys that can score, guys that can make plays. The Sixers have guys like that, but I mean, you got, just off the top of my head, Julius Randle, Derrick Rose, Kemba Walker. Who else do they have? Emmanuel Quickly, Alec Burks. These guys can score. They can make plays. They can do a bunch of things. Multi-dimensional players. I'm not saying the Sixers don't have those guys. We definitely do. Embiid is one of them. Seth Curry. I mean, it's just that these guys are also physical players. And like we talk about with the physicality stuff, the Sixers don't have a lot of guys who play that way, which is fine. But against teams like the Knicks, you just got to bring it a little more.
Right. Yeah, I mean, their depth is pretty good, especially at the guard position. Yeah. So they drafted my guy we talked about on the podcast a couple months ago, Deuce McBride. They drafted him, and he can't crack the rotation. A little upsetting, because I was looking forward to seeing him, and they wouldn't even put him in. It was a blowout. So that just shows you the depth they have at guard. A guy that came out of college after his sophomore year ain't cracking the rotation on the NBA team just because, again, you named them Quickly, Rose, Kemba, a couple others. I mean, they're solid. They're solid. So, like you said, it'd be nice to see them again and turn things around, be more physical with them. So again, Sixers sit at 4-2 on the season, 2-1 this week. A big win tonight against the Atlanta Hawks. Very excited to jump on the pod and right after the game ended and get on that. So let's see, just some general stuff. We are introducing a brand new segment.
I was waiting. I was gonna be like, "Are you gonna do that?"
A brand new segment of Planet 76. Just the way it's worked lately, we've kind of been recording on the weekend, and so we can recap each week and give a Player of the Week shout out. and then a shout out of the week, different. Player of the week, whoever we think has played the best on the Sixers, and the shout out can be a player, it can be a coach, it can be, a certain aspect of the game. Oh, I really love the Sixers 3-point defense this week. It could be that. And so we're going to just do that every single episode of the pod. And so I'm going to let you choose for the first introduction on Planet 76 Player of the Week for these 3 games we just broke down. Or do you want the shout out of the week or the player of the week? You get to choose.
Let's do player. I'll do player, and then I think I know who you're gonna choose, so I'm not gonna choose that player because I want to give the highlight to someone else. All right, so my player of this week, between 2 guys, but I'm gonna go with another guy because I think the other guy is gonna have another good week at some point. My highlight of this week, my player highlight is player shout out Georges Niang.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just really like the way he's been playing. He's not the most flashy guy. He's not gonna have a bunch of stats, but he knows the game. He's one of those guys who's played overseas. He knows the game. He's played for multiple NBA teams. He's just, obviously a great shooter, but he's a good passer. He's not a great defender, but he's good. He's good at getting in the opponent's space and disrupting the opponent's offense. He just has really good instincts, and it shows. The way he plays, he looks like he knows how to play basketball. Some guys are just out there flailing their arms.
I think that's a good,
not really sure what to do.
Put it. But he does.
Right. But exactly, and you can tell he's just got he has the IQ. He's just a smart player, and I really like the way he played this week. Obviously, not a huge flashy stats guy, but he's gonna make shots. He's gonna take shots. He's gonna play good defense, and I really liked how he played this week. So
Georges Niang. So that's the shout out of the week. I'm gonna go player of the week for these 3 games. I'm going Tobias Harris.
Oh, okay.
Who'd you think, Maxey?
I thought you were gonna. Well, it was either him. I thought you were gonna say Seth Curry.
Oh, Seth Curry.
Yes.
Admirable.
So maybe I'll take that.
Excellent choice.
Then.
Seth Curry can get player of the week probably any week.
True.
Tobias Harris, he was the lone bright spot against the Knicks. 22, 9, and 9. Again, played terrific defense on Julius Randle, I felt. The game against the Pistons, Tobias had 17 and 6, and then tonight led the Sixers scoring with 22. So he's been doing what Tobias Harris does.
I think he had 11 rebounds.
He had 11 boards tonight.
Wow.
Yeah, he's just been doing what Tobias Harris does. He's getting buckets, and again, he's improved on the defensive end. I'm trying to pull up the game against the Knicks just to see what Randle shot from the floor. I hope it's not 8 for 10, because
I think that's when Randle had that low point triple-double. Obviously, triple-double's cool, but
right.
if it's not an efficient triple-double, it's not.
So he almost got a triple-double. He was 3 assists away. He shot 7 for 18 for 16 points.
Ooh.
So I thought he was a little less efficient, but nonetheless.
16 points on 18 shots.
I feel like Tobias was on him. Yeah, it was good. So Tobias Harris is the player of the week here on Planet 76.
Solid.
So we're gonna finish here, I think. I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Joel Embiid. Through 6 games, he's had 1 30-point performance. The field goal percentage has been shaky. We've seen a couple things from Embiid we haven't seen in terms of he dropped 14 against the Knicks. He dropped 19 against tonight against the Hawks. He's currently at 21 points per game on the season. Only shooting 43% from the field. 30 minutes a game. How are you feeling about the big fella? And, again, the numbers don't lie. He averaged 28 or whatever last season. He's not doing that yet. Is the knee an issue? He's still playing on it. Should he be playing? What's your feel? And I can give mine too, but obviously that's been a talk. Apparently he couldn't walk after the Pelicans game, and then he plays 2 nights later. This early in the season, is he just doing it because Ben's not there? Is he doing it because he's trying to prove that he can be an MVP, trying to prove that he can play? And do you feel that he should be doing that? Just your thoughts on Joel.
Well, yeah, it is still really early, and I think he'll find his groove. He is an MVP player. He is an MVP in my eyes, so I think he'll find his groove. What I will say is that I definitely think he probably needs a little bit of a rest. And I know the Sixers play who do they play on Monday? I'm drawing a blank. I saw it earlier.
I'll pull it up here in a second.
I forget. But I definitely think he needs a rest. I think he's maybe trying to prove that he can play through injury or that he can just play in general. And even though we want him to play games, we also want him to be healthy. At least that's how I see it for the playoffs. And obviously, it's a very long season. Got to play the long game, especially with Embiid. So I definitely think he could use a rest, whether it's take a game off against a not-so-great team, see what happens.
Right.
Just to see how the team does without him. Obviously, guys will step up, but then the question is, will it be enough? So I think he definitely needs a game off, and I think he's just trying to maybe get in game shape,
Right.
or just condition himself, or just prove that he can play. Any combination of those three, probably a little bit of all three. Just trying to see what he can do and trying to win. I think he really just wants to win. I mean, we know this, so I think that's a pretty good assumption. Even if you don't want to assume anything, I think it's safe to say that he just really wants to win.
Yep. Yeah, and you appreciate that part of it. You appreciate that he's desiring to be out there.
Yeah.
I just hope it's smart. I'm a little concerned, not with his numbers. Again, I think, so he's missing a couple mid-range jumpers. Like, those will start falling. He'll start getting to the line a lot. Like, I'm not super concerned there. I mean, he's Joel Embiid. It's just the fact that this knee thing is still an issue. And I don't know why, or if it's carryover from the playoffs. Did he bump something against New Orleans? I forget.
I feel like he should have gotten surgery in the offseason.
Yes. Yeah.
He definitely should have.
Yeah, and he didn't, and it's like we're still dealing with this knee thing early in the season. Like, it's a long road. Not that I forgot about it, but it's like I didn't picture him coming back and, like, we're talking about this, this carryover from...
It's not something you think of because you hear, all right, he rehabbed his knee in the offseason, he feels fine. Right. That's because he hasn't played games yet. Like, he doesn't know how he's going to feel because he hadn't played any games, any real-time NBA action.
Right. Yeah, and Joel, I mean, again, you appreciate his desire to play, and you appreciate even where it's coming from. It's ultimately out of a desire to win. It's ultimately secondly, because he wants to be there for his team, and that other all-star is not, and so it does say something a little bit that he wants to be out there, and you appreciate that. I just hope that Doc or doctors are helping him and helping him make the right decision, and if he needs to sit, he needs to sit. October basketball, now heading into November basketball, is not important right now, ultimately.
In the grand scheme of things, it's really not.
Right. So, we'll see. Hopefully he can get back to... Again, it was encouraging to see him have 30 and 18 against the Pistons, but outside of that, somewhat quiet. 3 of the 6 games, Tobias Harris has been the leading scorer. In only 2 of the games, I'm just looking at it right here on ESPN, only 2 of the games, Embiid was the leading rebounder. Drummond had a couple of them, and Tobias had a couple of them as well. So, Tobias Harris deserved that Player of the Week. Just saying. Anyway, the Sixers, you mentioned schedule-wise, upcoming Monday with the Trailblazers at home. Being interesting. I'm sure Damian Lillard will get a mighty cheer from the Wells Fargo crowd.
Philly.
Followed by Chicago at home, to Detroit, and then at Chicago. So 4 games scheduled this week. Chicago twice, home and away. The Pistons away and the Trailblazers at home. And we will be back to break down that action for sure right here on Planet 76. Michael, anything else? Anything I'm forgetting?
I don't think so. Just hoping for a good week of Sixers basketball. Hoping for some wins. Hoping for a above 500 stretch on this little 4-game but 4-game whatever going on.
Yep, 4-game week. They're playing every other day, Monday, Wednesday. No, back-to-back. First back-to-back of the year. We'll see if Embiid. So the back-to-back is at Detroit. So maybe that's the game Joel sits. I'm just going to say. If there's one, it might be the second of the back-to-back in Detroit. Yeah. So possibly Joel not going in that one. Just going to say. So Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. And we'll be back to break it down on Planet 76. This has been episode 23 of the pod. Be sure to tell somebody you know. Tell a Sixers fan. Tell your uncle. Tell your aunt. Yeah.
Tell your neighbor.
Hey, if you know somebody on
like
Facebook, I don't really use Facebook.
Yes.
Old people use Facebook. But if someone old uses Facebook that you know, we are actually there. Planet 76 podcast. And you can actually listen to our episodes, believe it or not, right there on Facebook. Crazy. Who knew? Who knew?
It's crazy.
Anyway, we will see you next time on Planet 76. Are you on Instagram? Why don't you go give us a follow at Planet 76 Podcast so you can be in the know when we drop new episodes. Thanks for listening to this one, and we'll see you next time.